best swordsman. Ha! I'm the best swordsman.
Blessings of the dark gods upon you, legionaries, and welcome to another episode of the Best Swordsman series. I am your humble host who loves not the loyalist, LCFR of Excalibur. And today, speaking of loyalists, we have decided to give a dog his due. Today our subject is none other than loyalist Captain Erland of the World Eaters, a most hated foe. Why? Not again. Everyone loses, okay? Everyone. Erland plays best by embracing the warlord's ability to deal direct damage to the enemy warlord's health total for a very, very fair cost of 2 energy. And you can spam this almost every turn. Almost every turn, if you please. And I suspect in your winning games as Erland, you are spamming it a fair few times. The fact that over the course of the first 3 turns you can chip away 9 life from anyone is a very, very impressive way to get your race started as an aggro deck. But wait, there's more. In addition to having what might arguably be the most brutally efficient damage clock as a warlord ability, Erland also has high initiative, so you know the guy's going to go first a lot of the times, and those times where you're up against other high initiative warlords, that's 50%, that's coin toss to go first. Pretty good. Whether you go first or second, it gets better. You get an extra card. You get a whole extra card on top of the card you'll draw if you go second, if that's the case. So you're always pretty stacked with options, and they're probably just going to complement your main go-to gimmick, which is just 2 energy. Blades out, 3 damage. Happy, crazy, crazy times. I can't believe I'm doing this. But listen, I like ripping faces off as much as the next demonette, but I'm not a world eater. You know, I really don't care all that much for the followers of the Blood God. Come at me with some more class. I don't know. Pick up some poetry, learn to dance, write a song. Then try to kill me. It's a bit too forward for me, you know? To take me out to dinner first, woo me, before you try and come at me with a chain axe. I don't know. World eaters. I'm not a world eater. So, to help me, I called one of my favorite world eaters. This deck is brought to you by Terberus from the Officio Assassinorum Lodge. They are great opponents and constant nemeses on the ladder, and have a strange proclivity for playing Erland, I must say, which is very frustrating. Very tough opponent. The deck achieves victory by dealing direct damage to the enemy warlord's health total every turn as often as possible. This is primarily through Erland's warlord ability that we discussed, but as you'll notice, we've got classic World Eaters finishers like Serk Land Speeder and Sweeping Advance. The deck is packing a late game contingency plan in the event of stunlock matchups like Caleb Decima or Mortarion. Erland tends to suffer against enemy warlords who can just lock him down, since a lot of the damage that you're going to deal is coming directly from Erland's ability. If you've got Erland offline because he's stunned, it's going to be very hard to get that opponent down to 0 health. So there's a couple of tricks that have been included here that we'll discuss with some focused card analysis, and namely that's Macer Varen, Argus Brand, and hiding those big boys in a little escape vent. Some of the staple cards that you'll need to pull this off include No Survivors, which is one of the best area of effect removal tactics in the game. It can be replaced with Artillery Strike if you don't have it, but it is a cheap replica, so just know the limitations going in.
The deck plays Serk Landspeeder, as all good aggro World Eaters decks should. The deck runs Sweeping Advance, of course, which can give a strength bonus to any type of troop whatsoever. And to buff some of your other troops like your Goldstone Hunters, we've got Xeneyes here, who are ideally giving you optical mechadendrites, really just more copies of Sweeping Advance. Just remember the caveat, infantry or Astartes only. You can't strap a mechadendrite to a Serk Landspeeder, okay?
Thank the gods.
Deck's secret weapons include Argus Brand, who can get very strong very fast, and that's quite within your control as a deck with so many damage tactics. And oh look, more loyalist trash. Macer Varen, captain of the 12th Company. Every time one of your little rinky-dink troop dies, running into the enemy warlord's face, guess what Macer says? Thank you, I'll have another. Macer is seldom played by World Eaters, mostly because the price tag associated with his ability is considered rather high. But if you treat him like a second copy of Argus Brand, that you pay a slight energy premium to be able to do, he's not so bad at all. But infantry and Astartes are fragile and vulnerable to Ambassador Melgator. We hide them in escape vents. You've all seen Aliens, it works. But alright, enough already. Cut the theory, start the practice, and the cutting.
We've kept a pretty all-around hand. We've got a finisher, we've got some conditional removal in the sabotage, and then we've got two of our best troops, Serk Landspeeder and Goldstone Hunters. And these are both so good because they can both double as a finisher able to deal lots of damage with Sweeping Advance or a Mechadendrite, hopefully. Or they can also just work as really efficient removal since they have such high strength. And our game plan here, I'm sure you've noticed now after 2 turns, is to simply close the health gap as fast as possible. A lot of aggro decks have a popular, typical turn where there's sort of a swing in the health gap, where you guys come about equal to your opponent or you get ahead of them. So for Emperor's Children, for example, that's often at 4 energy or 6 energy. Night Lords do it at 6, or they flip it all upside down at 6 sometimes with the Reaper of Kaldrak. Erland only needs a couple of slashes to equalize the health state. And then once you've got some more energy at that point, you can start playing some troops that will really draw their fire. And the important thing to note here is the relative difference in health. Maybe we've only done 11 damage, and that's not enough for some of you, but what you have to keep in mind is that we've done 11 damage to the 1 damage we've taken for our Warlord. It's important to keep the relative state of damage in mind, whether that's a little bit of damage or a lot, because how far apart you and the enemy Warlord are can really determine how much you're able to do on the battlefield, how much you can throw your health around to help you remove troops, or how much reach it's going to take to get killed. So we've got finisher number 1 on the table, and most savvy opponents know that once you see Argus Brand, you have to kill him. He's a must deal with threat. Unless you're able to hide or stun him or something, he needs to be removed. And look at how the gods love us, giving us escape vent. It helps when there's 2 in the deck. But we're going to witness just how much damage and how much reach the World Eaters are capable of with Macer Varen. Just count it in our hand. Just look at all the cards that boost damage. And our opponent, Konrad Curze, is moving far, far too slow and is not putting on enough pressure to really dissuade us from our lethal course of action. That's something to note too when you're going up against Erland. You need to be able to negate that clockwork 3 damage. Truer words have never been spoken, Erland. Now, you'd think 20 some odd health would keep you out of reach of lethal, right? Think again. This deck is well capable of this kind of mayhem. Primarch or not, it'll cut you down. Double feature versus Alpha Legion. I wonder who it is. This is a pretty exciting hand. It's got a lot of action. Felsian 5th Airborne, the stealth troop on our left here, is an all-around solid beater that can struggle in some metas. If you're facing a lot of Joker companies or Death Guard playing Endurance, you might want to stay away from it. But for 4 energy, it's a pretty good investment, especially when you're playing it on curve, right on time. The Pi Alphas are very, very beloved in this matchup. As I'm sure many of you are already aware, the Alpha Legion is just lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels full of stuns, and it is not fun. So keeping a Pi Alpha in your opening hand against a stun-heavy enemy, very savvy. Especially a well-timed stun, it can just stop you right when you think it's impossible to lose. This is a sad occasion where we have to give up a really strong card, but we do have to respect just how versatile it is. Let it do its job. And also just respect how scary leaving Jukebox Starsight on a board can be. Highly, highly recommend that unless you are ready to deal lethal or do something super incredible, kill that Jukebox Starsight right away. You can't really afford for it to create more value for your opponent. You'll lose to your own cards, and it feels horrible. But the nice thing is that we've got such an efficient ability that we're really keeping neck and neck. Despite the stealth protection of Exodus, despite being a sneaky Alpha Legion git, it doesn't really matter. Now do take note here, demons and demonettes, that our friend Terberus has made a little error in placement here. You really want to be careful when you're placing your troops that you are cognizant of who you're facing and what kind of effects they have that affect adjacent targets. So in this case, we never want to flank our warlord against the Alpha Legion with just a troop on either side, because it'll leave us like this. We want to position our troops far out to one side or the other when we're trying to play around Lambda Thunderhawk, so that we can ultimately minimize how many troops or what kind of troops are stunned. But it's pretty nice when you've got a Pi Alpha on deck. And there's no means that the Alpha Legion has, typically, to deal with our Stealth Walker here. We might have been tempted to use our Pi Alpha to heal the Stealth Walker against, say, Death Guard, when an Endurance could be imminent, and we may not be able to use our 5 damage, but in this case we can be patient. And some of you are thinking, why not play the Seditions Gate? But others, I think, can have a sense of how much damage is in this hand, especially when you count the dead bodies. Because with the right setup here, we can take Macer to lethal very easily in the next turn. And consider what kind of out your opponent would need to defend them, if not stealth removal, and maybe Ambassador Malgator. Mock Macer Varen for what seems like poor value for the energy cost, but when he's on the board and protected like this, really shy of stealth removal plus Malgator, how are you going to get rid of him? And what's your opponent going to say to him when he shows up at their door? Looking mean and angry. Yeah, this hand is 1,000 ways to die, with a neat little trick on how to use your sabotage to remove stun. And let's see how high we can go. High enough. It's over in an instant. Macer Varen is an explosion.
Well, that was educational. And it did hurt, even to watch. Something about the vicarious thrill of watching an enemy take 20 damage
Right to the dome in a single term.
Perfection.
Well, that's another slash on my face. Thanks for tuning into the Best Swordsman series. Catch you on the ladder.